I'm in
How
the
many
files for
people?
not going.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm in the files for not going. Jeffrey Epstein was trying to meet with me.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
You're like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Aren't
I
you
was like,
glad?
Yeah, but I would have never went anyway. It's like, it's not even a possibility that I would have went.
But did you-
Especially after I Googled him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This was like 2017. One of my guests was trying to get me to meet him. I was like, are you high? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Joe Rogan just uncovered something wild, raising questions about whether Jeffrey Epstein might have been operating on behalf of someone even more powerful than himself. And as if that was not shocking enough, Joe Rogan then spotted his own name inside the Epstein files. I know what you are thinking. Wait, what? But hold on, because the twist here changes everything. He was not listed because he was involved. He was there because he refused. Back in 2017, people connected to Jeffrey Epstein reportedly tried to reach Joe Rogan through one of his podcast guests, a physicist, asking if Joe Rogan wanted to meet Jeffrey Epstein. So Rogan did a quick Google search, saw Epstein's 2008 legal conviction, and his reaction was pure Rogan energy. Are you high? What the hell are you talking about? Honestly, good call, Joe. Very good call. But things appeared far more complicated after that. When Rogan later started digging deeper into the files himself, what he described publicly deeply disturbed him. Some have argued that Jeffrey Epstein may not have been the ultimate decision-maker, that he functioned more as a middleman. Behind him, critics speculate, were extremely wealthy and well-connected individuals, names that in certain documents appeared heavily redacted. When Rogan connected the dots, his reaction was intense and unsettling. Stay tuned because by the end of this, you will understand what raised those concerns. On January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice released what was described as the largest document dump ever tied to the Epstein case. Over 3 million pages, 180,000 images, and 2,000 videos were made available to the public. The internet exploded. Everyone started searching for who went to the island, who was there, and who knew what. But it did not take long for controversy to grow. Many of the most powerful names were completely blacked out. When two members of Congress, one Republican and one Democrat, pushed to expose those names, one of them said it plainly. This is bigger than Watergate.
Email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name.
In this video, you are about to examine the claims about who may have been operating above Jeffrey Epstein. The names some believe were hidden, protected, or redacted for years. You will start to understand why certain details remained out of public view. Joe Rogan, a man who has sat face-to-face with billionaires, presidents, and celebrities, described what he read in those files as literally demonic. Let's dive in. But first, we need a quick rewind. To understand what is happening now, you have to know where this story began. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier with a private island in the Caribbean, a luxury Manhattan mansion, and a private jet that critics nicknamed the Lolita Express. He maintained connections with many influential and high-profile individuals across politics, business, and entertainment. Back in 2008, he was convicted in a controversial case and received a plea deal that resulted in 13 months in a low-security facility with work release privileges. Prosecutors later described that agreement as unusually lenient. Then in 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal charges related to trafficking and abuse allegations involving multiple accusers. But before the trial could begin, he was found dead in his prison cell, officially ruled a suicide. To this day, many people, including some forensic commentators, continue to question the circumstances surrounding his death.
Look at your total conspiracy catalog of things that you like to dive into outside of aliens, because everybody knows that. What are your other ones that you like?
Well, aliens is the most fun one.
Yeah.
This is the one that I hate the most.
Yeah.
Because this one scares the shit out of me. Because the fear of, we talked about this yesterday with Roger Avery, the fear of these like literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people killed, participating in ritual sacrifice of people, and they do it in order to show that you're a part of a team. And we know that that has always historically been a real thing. And it's been something that you look at in history and you go, God, it's so sick. It's so twisted. It's so disgusting. And everybody wants to think, thank God that's not happening now. But then when you realize, like, that might have been happening now.
4 years, accusers, investigators, and members of the public demanded one thing: release the full files. Show everything. Show the names. Finally, in early 2026, a massive collection of documents was released. More than 3 million pages were made available online. But the controversy did not end there. Large portions were still redacted, still hidden, and still protected under legal guidelines. This brings us back to Joe Rogan and why his reaction resonated so strongly. Rogan is not just a podcaster. He is one of the most listened to voices in the world. He has spoken with billionaires, celebrities, and influential political figures. So when someone with that level of access reads through those files and says, "This scared the life out of me," these are literally demonic people running the world who do not care about human lives, it naturally fuels further debate and public concern. You have to stop and ask yourself, what did Joe Rogan actually see?
Are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikaladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI.
That is exactly what we are about to examine. It all picked up on February 11th, 2026, when Joe Rogan was recording a podcast with actress Cheryl Hines, who was married to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His name has also appeared in publicly released Epstein-related documents. Right in the middle of the show, Rogan made a surprising statement. "I am in the files." The internet went wild. People immediately speculated, assuming Rogan was somehow connected to Jeffrey Epstein. But he quickly clarified.
You look at your total conspiracy catalog of things that you like to dive into outside of aliens, because everybody knows that. What are your other ones that you like?
Well, aliens is the most fun one.
Yeah.
This is the one that I hate the most.
Yeah.
Because this one scares the shit out of me. Because the fear of, we talked about this yesterday with Roger Avery, the fear of these, like, literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people killed, participating in ritual sacrifice of people, and they do it in order to show that you're a part of a team. And we know that that has always historically been a real thing, and it's been something that you look at in history and you go, God, it's so sick, it's so twisted, it's so disgusting. And everybody wants to think, thank God that's not happening now. But then when you realize, like, that might have been happening now.
That clarification changed the entire narrative. Honestly, that moment reflects how Joe Rogan described his stance at the time, as someone who did not entertain questionable invitations. Back in 2017, physicist Lawrence Krauss, who had previously appeared on Rogan's podcast, contacted him with a message. Jeffrey Epstein had reportedly reached out to Krauss, asking if he could connect him with Rogan. The message was casual, something along the lines of, "I think he is funny. Can you set up a meeting?" Rogan's response was simple. He searched Epstein's background, saw the 2008 conviction, and immediately declined. His reaction, in his own blunt words, made it clear he wanted no involvement. That instinct kept him distant. But what he later encountered in those 3 million pages raised broader questions for him. According to Rogan and other commentators, this story may not have been solely about Jeffrey Epstein as an individual. Some argue he functioned as a front-facing figure, a connector within a much larger and more complex network of influence. Here is where the debate intensified. When those millions of documents were released, officials stated that certain names were redacted to protect victims and comply with legal standards. On the surface, that explanation sounds reasonable. But some lawmakers questioned whether all redactions served that purpose. When members of Congress reviewed portions of the unredacted material, they suggested that additional transparency was needed. 2 congressmen, Thomas Massey, a Republican, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat, introduced what they call the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Their stated goal was full disclosure, every name, every page, and complete transparency.
Files for not going.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm in the files for not going. Jeffrey Epstein was trying to meet with me.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
You're like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad?
Yeah, but I would have never went anyway. It's like, it's not even a possibility that I would ever went.
But did
especially
you-
after I Googled him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This was like 2017. One of my guests was trying to get me to meet him. I was like, are you high?
That
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
When Thomas Massey spoke after reviewing portions of the unredacted files, he did not hold back. He said, "This is bigger than Watergate." On the House floor, Ro Khanna publicly read out 6 names that he argued had been improperly redacted, names he believed should not have been hidden. Salvatore Zorab, Leon Leonov, Nikola Caputo, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, and Les Wexner.
Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massey, a Trump critic, challenged the Justice Department over redactions involving alleged Epstein associates.
Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? You can
Within
give me-
40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
And we invited
You know what?
you
Show the
in.
video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Here is where questions began to grow. Officials stated that some names were accidentally redacted. Critics, however, found that explanation difficult to accept, particularly in the case of Les Wexner, whose name reportedly appears thousands of times throughout the broader document set and remains visible in many sections. In most instances, his name was not hidden except in one specific document referencing co-conspirators. Some observers argue that inconsistency deserves closer examination, though no formal legal conclusions have been announced. When Rogan discussed this detail, he questioned why certain names were redacted in some places but not others, saying, "How come you redact some people and not others? What is this? This is not good." That raises a broader question. Who are these individuals whose names continue to surface in public discussion? Who is Les Wexner and who is Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem? For many observers, understanding their connections is central to understanding the wider story. You might not immediately recognize Les Wexner's name, but you likely know the company he built. He is the billionaire founder and former CEO of Victoria's Secret, one of the largest lingerie brands in the world. For decades, he has been one of the wealthiest figures in American business, with significant social and political connections. Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein had a well-documented financial relationship. Wexner granted Epstein power of attorney over aspects of his financial affairs for a period of time, giving him broad authority to manage certain matters. Epstein also resided in Wexner's Manhattan mansion, a property later searched during the investigation. That mansion became symbolic in public discussions about the case. Reports also circulated about artwork displayed there, including a widely discussed painting depicting a former United States president in unconventional attire. The presence of such artwork fueled further media attention and speculation, though it remains part of broader public reporting rather than a central legal finding. Nearly 2 decades before the recent document releases, investigative journalist Whitney Webb published allegations regarding Leslie Wexner's relationship with Epstein. In one widely circulated statement, she claimed that Wexner had financially supported large-scale misconduct operations and was effectively insulated from accountability. At the time, many critics dismissed her reporting as speculative or conspiratorial. However, the release of additional documents reignited debate about those earlier claims, though no court has formally validated the specific allegations she made. Some reports indicated that federal investigators reviewed Wexner's role and connections as part of the broader inquiry. However, no charges were filed against him. After Epstein's death, aspects of the investigation shifted direction, and questions about what might have followed remain part of public discussion rather than confirmed legal findings. Wexner has consistently maintained that he was misled and that he severed ties with Epstein in 2007 after learning information that concerned him. Publicly available records confirm a long-standing financial and professional relationship between the two, including shared properties and years of association, though interpretations of what that relationship ultimately meant remain disputed. Rogan voiced frustration over inconsistencies in redactions, repeating, "How come you redact some people and not others? What is this?"
Fuck are you talking about? This was like 2017. One of my guests was trying to get me to meet him. I was like, are you high?
that.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
For what reason would you? What would be?
If I was a guy who is like sucking up to the rich and powerful, if I was really interested in hanging out with rich and powerful people.
You know, it's crazy. That's so crazy. But yeah, some people.
Some people get intoxicated by being in a circle of rich and powerful people, even if they're not, like, they don't even have any ambitions of being being one of those people. They
Yeah.
just want to be around them. They want to
Yeah.
be around Nobel Prize winners. And
Yeah.
because this guy what he was doing was very clever in that he was getting all of these very powerful and very respected people together.
Yeah.
And you would figure like, oh, it's
If that
safe.
guy's there, if that lady's
Clinton's
there.
here. This
yeah.
is fine.
Right.
Clinton's here. How
Yeah.
could this be bad?
For critics, Wexner represented financial backing within Epstein's orbit. But attention has also focused on another prominent name appearing in the documents: Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, a Dubai-based billionaire and former chairman of DP World, one of the largest global port operating companies. He is a figure with extensive international business ties and connections across multiple governments. Public discussion intensified over a 2009 email referenced in the document set. In that exchange, Epstein allegedly wrote a message that included the phrase, "I love the torture video." The context and nature of that reference remain unclear in public reporting. Bin Sulayem's response in the same exchange was brief and logistical in tone. Following the document release, observers noted that bin Sulayem's name appeared numerous times across the files, reportedly thousands. The documents reference emails, communications, and attachments, though the full context of those materials has not been comprehensively detailed in official findings. For many commentators, the frequency of those references raised further questions, even as no formal criminal charges were announced in connection with those mentions. For years, there were rumors and private communications discussed behind closed doors. When the files were released, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem's name initially appeared redacted in certain sections. Critics speculated that it could relate to the sensitivity of international business relationships, major port contracts, and diplomatic considerations. Officials, however, did not publicly confirm any such motive when his name later appeared in less redacted materials along with the previously mentioned email reference. Bin Sulayem stepped down from his leadership role at DP World. No criminal charges were announced in connection with his name. Rogan questioned the redactions, saying, "What the hell, man? Why is his name redacted? Why would your name be hidden if you are not a victim?"
Am I right? Is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there.
To some commentators, the situation looked like another example of powerful figures avoiding lasting consequences. Others argue that appearing in documents does not automatically imply wrongdoing. The broader debate continues, and the conversation does not stop there. Some critics claim similar patterns exist in Hollywood, where influence and reputation can complicate public accountability. Two widely recognized names are often mentioned in these broader discussions. Let's start with Oprah Winfrey. To be clear, Oprah Winfrey has not been formally implicated in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Viral claims suggesting she visited Epstein's island multiple times have been widely debunked by fact-checkers. However, her long-standing professional relationship with Harvey Weinstein has been revisited in light of later events. During civil proceedings against Weinstein, actress Katie Noble testified that Weinstein referenced Oprah Winfrey's name and public association to build trust. Noble alleged that he used that connection to strengthen his credibility. Those claims were made within the context of her lawsuit and reflect her testimony. Oprah Winfrey was also photographed at social events attended by other high-profile figures who later became subjects of investigations. Public appearances, however, do not in themselves establish knowledge or involvement in alleged misconduct. In 2007, a staff member at Oprah Winfrey's Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa faced charges related to misconduct involving students. Oprah Winfrey publicly expressed shock at the time and stated that she had no prior knowledge of the allegations. When the Weinstein scandal became public, Oprah Winfrey delivered a speech urging broader cultural reflection beyond one individual. Some interpreted that message as a call for systemic change. Others questioned whether expanding the focus diluted attention from specific accountability. Critics argue that the pattern is about institutions protecting reputations. Years earlier, actor Corey Feldman claimed on television that abuse was widespread in Hollywood. During that appearance, journalist Barbara Walters cautioned him, saying, "You are damaging an entire industry."
Saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Are you saying that they're pedophiles?
Yes.
And that they're still in this business?
Yes.
That's what, and that's what you were saying in your book. When you talk
about,
Morton, serious topic.
You said that there was one gentleman in the industry who did not take advantage of you. He was not a pedophile. You said it was Michael Jackson.
Of all people.
That exchange has since been cited by commentators as an example of how sensitive allegations can be met with resistance. Joe Rogan summed it up this way. Some people get intoxicated by being in a circle of rich and powerful people. And when you are that intoxicated, you stop asking questions. You stop looking too closely. You just enjoy the access. Oprah Winfrey is not presented as a central figure in the Jeffrey Epstein case, but critics argue she represents part of a broader cultural pattern, one in which fame, money, and influence can complicate accountability. That same pattern appears again in discussions surrounding another well-known name. To be clear, Tyler Perry has no established connection to Jeffrey Epstein. However, in June 2025, actor Derek Dixon filed a $260 million civil lawsuit against Tyler Perry, alleging inappropriate conduct. Dixon claimed that Perry made unwanted advances and described specific incidents in his filing. Perry's legal team responded immediately, calling the lawsuit a scam and a money grab.
Bad enough to think like this was a dangerous situation in the beginning.
During the interview, Dixon went through some of the messages he claims Perry sent him, including ones which Perry appears to reference Dixon's sex life. He also explained an alleged incident in which he claims things turned physical with the Hollywood megastar.
One of them says, what's it going to take for you to have guiltless sex? Have y'all found that in therapy yet? I would hope that you would let someone hold you and make love to you.
Now, the complaint also alleges that in January of 2020, there was an escalation from the text messages to Tyler Perry's behavior becoming physical. Can you explain that first alleged incident?
Yes, we were over at his house. We're having some drinks in his guest house, and it was late at night, and he has a guest quarters and said that you can sleep there instead of, not driving. And his house is far from Atlanta and where I was living. And I got into bed and then I noticed that he climbed into bed with me as well and started rubbing my leg. And I jumped up out of bed and he said, turn around so I can look at you and just commented on how I looked. And then
during an interview, Derek Dixon described what he believed was a dangerous situation from the beginning. He went through some of the messages he claims Tyler Perry sent him, including ones in which Perry appeared to reference Dixon's sex life. The complaint also alleges that in January 2020, there was an escalation from text messages to behavior Dixon described as physical. In the interview, Dixon explained one alleged incident. He said they were at Perry's house, having drinks in the guest house late at night. Perry allegedly suggested that Dixon stay overnight rather than drive back, since the house was far from Atlanta and where Dixon was living at the time. Dixon stated that he got into bed and then noticed that Perry climbed into bed as well and began rubbing his leg. He said he jumped out of bed. According to Dixon, Perry then asked him to turn around so he could look at him and commented on his appearance. These allegations remain unproven in court, and Tyler Perry has denied wrongdoing. One line from Dixon's filing drew particular attention. He stated, "I convinced myself it was part of the industry, but I could not stay silent anymore." That phrase, part of the industry, has been cited by commentators as reflecting a broader concern about how certain behaviors can become normalized in powerful environments. Critics argue that systems do not always sustain themselves through overt force, but through culture, through the belief that certain conduct is simply how things work. Do not speak up. Do not rock the boat. It is just part of the industry. Some observers have applied that same idea retrospectively to the Harvey Weinstein scandal, noting how his conduct went unchallenged for years despite widespread rumors. Others have used similar language to describe how Jeffrey Epstein's social circles operated, where access and influence may have discouraged scrutiny. The faces change, critics say, but the conversation about power and protection continues. That debate resurfaced again with the 2023 film Sound of Freedom, based on the story of Tim Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent who worked on anti-trafficking operations. The film had a reported $14.5 million budget and grossed over $250 million at the box office.
This right here is The Sound of Freedom, a new movie which exposes the sexual trafficking of children. And also, it's a movie that's actively being hidden from the American public, because as crazy as it sounds, despite the fact that this movie is, for one, based on true real-world events, and also despite the fact that it exposes the very real reality that millions of children across the world find themselves in, well, there are elite forces in both Hollywood as well as the media which have actively been working for the past 5 years to suppress this movie.
Public interest in Sound of Freedom was significant. On its opening weekend, it outperformed several major studio releases. Some audiences organized group screenings, and supporters promoted the film heavily. However, the film also became politically polarizing. It reportedly sat unreleased for several years before distribution was secured. When it premiered, some media outlets criticized it and questioned its framing. While supporters argued that the backlash reflected discomfort with its subject matter, the reaction itself became part of the larger cultural debate. Actor Jim Caviezel, who played Tim Ballard, said, "Hollywood is scared of this movie. They are quaking in their boots." That was his view.
I can say one thing. I showed it in Vegas, and there was 5 screenings, about 1,500 people that saw it. During the 5 screenings, each screening, there was a talking going on. And I was like watching the audience going, what? The second time it happened. Again, third time, talking in this one particular spot. And I'm thinking, what, did we do something wrong or something? But so then one more time it happened. At the end, I was asking about the movie, and I asked them about that one particular part where everybody's talking, and they all cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
Wow.
Epstein Island isn't the only island out there, and Tim Ballard takes down one of the films.
Supporters of the film argued that it did not just tell a story. They said it portrayed how trafficking networks can allegedly operate. Fake modeling recruiters, private parties, and powerful figures shielded by influence while accusers remain hesitant or isolated. For some viewers, those themes felt familiar.
One of the most disturbing problems in our world today is human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness. Go see Sound of Freedom.
Some commentators drew parallels between those themes and elements discussed in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Critics labeled the film conspiratorial. Supporters countered that recently released documents made parts of its narrative feel less fictional and more reflective of real-world concerns. Now that you have seen how complex this story has become, let's bring it back to where it started. Joe Rogan's journey began with one unexpected detail, finding his own name in the files, one reference among millions of pages. But as he looked deeper and as conversations with guests continued, he began to question whether Jeffrey Epstein operated independently or within a broader structure.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm in the files for not going, because Jeffrey Epstein was trying to meet with me.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad?
Yeah, but I would have never went anyway. It's like, it's not even a possibility that I would ever went.
But
especially after I Googled him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This was like 2017. One of my guests was trying to get me to meet him. I was like, bitch, are you high? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
For what reason would you? What would be...
If I was a guy who was like sucking up to the rich and powerful, if I was really interested in hanging out with rich and powerful people.
You know, it's crazy. That's so crazy. But yeah, some people
get intoxicated by being in a circle of rich and powerful people, even if they're not, like, they don't even have any ambitions of being one of those people. They just want to be around them. They want to be around Nobel Prize winners. And because this guy what he was doing was very clever in that he was getting all of these very powerful and very respected people together.
Yeah.
And you would figure like, oh, it's
if that guy's there, that lady's
Clinton's
there.
Here. This is fine. Clinton's here. How could this be bad?
Yeah.
Look, it's Steven Pinker. How could this be?
Some commentators argue that Epstein functioned as a middle figure, someone positioned between influential individuals and controversial activities. That interpretation remains part of ongoing public debate rather than a formal legal conclusion. Les Wexner's name appears repeatedly in discussions surrounding Epstein due to their past financial relationship. Critics point to his prior power of attorney arrangement and property ties as significant. However, he has not been convicted of wrongdoing related to these associations and has denied knowledge of criminal activity. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem's name also appears frequently in the document set. According to public reporting, references to email exchanges generated controversy, and he later stepped down from his corporate role. No criminal charges were announced in connection with those mentions. Oprah Winfrey, not implicated in Epstein's criminal case, has nonetheless been discussed within broader cultural debates about elite social circles and influence. Tyler Perry faces civil allegations that remain unresolved in court, and Hollywood itself continues to face scrutiny over how institutions respond to misconduct allegations. To critics, this reflects a larger conversation about power, access, and accountability. Then come Rogan's words, the ones that captured his emotional reaction after reviewing the materials. Literally demonic human beings that are running the world and do not care about human lives. Those words reflect his perspective and the intensity of the ongoing debate surrounding this case. From his point of view, he was not exaggerating. This is not simply an internet rumor. The situation has raised difficult questions across political and institutional lines. Rogan asked the question many people continue to debate. Why are you protecting these people? If you are redacting names and they are not victims, what are you doing? That question still echoes today. Another point fueling discussion is that reports suggest the Department of Justice may still have a significant volume of documents that have not yet been publicly released. Some estimates mention millions of additional pages that have not been made available to journalists or lawmakers. While officials have not confirmed specific numbers publicly, critics argue that full transparency has not yet been achieved. Millions of pages have already been released, and portions of those documents sparked global reaction. Naturally, speculation continues about what information may remain undisclosed. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but debate continues over whether he acted alone or within a broader network of influence. Some believe powerful individuals remain insulated by legal complexity and institutional caution. Others argue that the release process is ongoing and must follow legal standards. Depending on who you ask, the full truth is either slowly emerging or still tightly controlled. Now it is your turn. What do you think? Is Joe Rogan right to question whether others operated above Epstein? Or do you believe the document releases so far reflect the extent of what can legally be shared? If this story made you stop and think, leave your thoughts below and subscribe, because this conversation is not over. More documents could be released in the future. When new information surfaces, we will be here to break it down. See you in the next one.